Hi everyone, we're Team Footprint from the UK, and we've been working with Burberry over the last 12 weeks to build a solution around the sustainable fashion domain. But before we show you all the work that we've been doing, let's meet the team. So hi, I'm Nikhil. I do computer science at Durham University.
Hi, I'm Eleanor and I study physics at the University of Exeter.
Hi, I'm Sergio and I study computer science at the University of Southampton.
And I'm Tara and I study engineering at the University of Oxford. So today we're going to be taking you through what we've been working on over the summer. We'll start by introducing you to Jack, who is a persona that we've been using to help us get an insight into what customers want from retailers at the moment. We'll take you through a demo of our solution to his concerns, and then you can ask any questions in the chat afterwards.
So this is Jack. He's a 30-year-old patent attorney and he likes high-end fashion, but he's also very concerned about sustainability and the impact that he's having on the environment. And he wants to buy a coat, so he goes shopping, but he can't find any sustainability information at any of the brands that he usually shops for. So he goes on the hunt to find a brand that does have this information and that he can easily understand and trust.
We can summarize Jack's concerns into 3 main points. So first of all, he wants a brand that he feels aligns with his values on sustainability. And quite a few brands do give sustainability information, but they don't always show transparency or any proof for the data they're showing. So he feels it's difficult to trust these brands. And he also wants a quick and easy way to understand the impact of the purchases he's making.
So with Jack's concerns in mind, we looked at what other brands are doing in terms of kind of highlighting their sustainability efforts. And one company that stood out to us is Rapa Nui. And after a discussion with their co-founder, Mark, we found out that they actually showcase sustainability mainly through a map on their website, which shows the journey of an item from farm to store.
We had lots of different ideas when we started the project, but after discussions with Burberry, we decided to focus on improving the customer experience when they're in store. So our solution is Voyage. Voyage is an app that can be downloaded by customers, and when they are in a Burberry store, they can scan any item in the store to find out more information about it. So they'll first find out about the sustainability information, so this will give them a quick guide to whether this product aligns with their values.
They also have access to a timeline, which basically shows a list in chronological order of all the events related to an item. And they also have access to stories, which give more details about them. But then customers can also add their own events and stories, giving them a more personal connection with the item, but also adding more information that potential second-hand buyers can access, which will keep the resale price up, which gives Jack just another reason to make the initial purchase.
Let's catch up with Jack. Winter is coming and he's looking for a new coat. So he heads into a Burberry store, and while he's in there, a sales associate comes up to him and tells him about a new in-store experience that they have. So he downloads the Burberry app and discovers Voyage.
So Jack opens up the app for the first time and he's presented with the login screen. And since he's a new customer, he taps on register and that takes him to this priority selection screen. Here he can select up to 3 sustainability priorities that align with his views. And this information is used later on to personalize his experience. So he submits the 3 that most align with him, and that takes him to the wardrobe page.
There's nothing in his wardrobe at the moment because he hasn't bought anything yet, but he can tap scan QR to find out a bit more information about the coat that he's looking at the moment. So that then takes him to that coat's attributes page. So the green bubbles are the positive attributes for the coat, and the larger bubbles are the attributes that align with the priorities that he selected earlier. And all of the data that you can see on this page is just example data for the purposes of the presentation and doesn't actually represent a Burberry product. So here, there's under the relative tab, the numbers are relative to the lifetime of the item. So Jack can see that by using the slider at the bottom, that by varying the amount of time that he keeps the coat for, this changes the numbers. And then under the equivalent tab, these are the numbers in more relatable terms. So, for example, the water used is in terms of number of bathtubs. And then finally, at the bottom of this screen, he has some suggested items that also align with his priorities.
Yeah, so Jack now wants to find a bit more about the coat that he's looking at. So he taps on the go to timeline view, and that takes him to the event timeline. And here he can see all of the manufacturing events that have happened prior to the coat getting to the store. And obviously something like a trench coat is a really complex item. So he also has the option to filter by the components that make up the coat and just look at the events for each one. All of these events also have a story behind them. So if he wants to learn a bit more about the farming event, for example, he can tap on its event card, and that takes him to its story. And this, the story cards, he can swipe through and find out more about what actually happens during this manufacturing stage. And he can also find out information about the initiatives that Burberry have in place to improve the sustainability. And maybe he also gets some information like about the farmers and other individuals involved.
And then back on the timeline page, Jack sees that there's an alternative map view. So this view shows all the events for the coat in terms of where they've happened in the world. So the countries highlighted in green are countries where events have taken place. So he can move around the map and select a certain country that he's interested in, for example, France, to see the events that have happened in that country.
So Jack's been really busy at his new job and has bought quite a few Burberry items since the last visit in store. But he also had a wedding, and at the wedding he wore a Burberry tuxedo, and he wants to add a picture of himself wearing that on the item's timeline. So he opens the Voyage app, and then I'll let Elena take it from here.
Yeah, so as Sergio just said, Jack is now a loyal Burberry customer, so his wardrobe is now filled with all the items that he owns. So he can tap the tag on the corner of any of the items to take him to the aftercare page. And when he does this, he can see a digital version of the tag he would have seen when he was in the store when he bought the item originally. So he can flip through the pages to find out how to best care for his item and how to make it last as long as possible. And then he taps back to go back to the wardrobe page.
And now to add the event to Jack's tuxedo, he taps on the tuxedo picture, and that takes him to its timeline. And in the top right, he can tap on the plus button, and that takes him to the add event page. And here he can fill in all the information about the event. So in this case, it's a photo, and he can put in the description and location. And finally, he can select the image. And he has the option to take a photo now, but he's actually already got the photo in his library. So he goes and finds that, selects it, and finally taps on submit to add it to the tuxedo's timeline. So this not only adds it to the timeline, but in the background, we have a blockchain that also records that an event has been added. So if Jack scrolls all the way to the bottom of the timeline now, he can find his picture event. And as you can see, it's got a bold outline. And this just means that if he taps on it, it has a story, and he can find the image that he's just uploaded. And so that's the app that we've built.
Thanks, Nikhil. So that's everything that we've been working on over the past 12 weeks. And now we're going to talk you through the technology that we've used to build it. So I'll hand over to Sergio to talk you through that.
Thanks, Elena. So this is our system architecture. And you can see that on the right, for our front end, we used Ionic. And Ionic is just a framework that uses JavaScript and HTML and allows us to build hybrid applications, which means that we can write a single piece of code that then can run on both mobile apps for iOS and Android, and websites as well. And then in the middle, we have our backend, which uses Node.js mainly because it shares the same base programming language, JavaScript, with our front end. And GraphQL is kind of the glue that helps move information from the backend to the front end as we need it. And on the left side, with all the services, we have the IBM blockchain platform, which Nikhil's talked to you about already, but we chose this mainly because it's very scalable for large applications. And IBM Cloud Object Storage holds all of our assets in the cloud, for example, the images in the stories. And for our database, we used IBM Cloudin.
So throughout the course of this project, we had lots of ideas about how we could develop this in the future that we simply didn't have time to implement in 12 weeks. So we're going to talk you through a couple of our key ideas now.
So quite early on in our meetings with the Burberry team, it became apparent that store assistants are really important in the customer's experience. So we want to possibly have an iPad version of the app, which would give store assistants the tools not only to kind of educate the customers, but also to drive potential sales by using past purchase history of customers and their sustainability priorities.
Another development would be a resale platform for Burberry items. So customers like Jack would be able to browse through secondhand items and know that the items that they're looking at are authentic and have been well looked after, because they'll be able to see all of the events on the item's timeline. And this promotes circular fashion and would help Burberry to expand into a new market.
So that was a very quick overview onto what we've been working on over the past few weeks. Thank you all for listening, and we'd also like to say a huge thank you to all our mentors who've been invaluable during the internship. If anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat and we will answer them in a minute.